What's up, everybody? Welcome into another MLB DFS DraftKings Picks video. Today is Tuesday, August 10th. I'm your host, Ben Hustler, joined by Justin Bales. It's been a minute since we've done one together, Bales. I was out of town all weekend. Huge shout out to Prize Picks for taking really good care of us in Atlanta. That was a super good weekend, so shout out to them for that. I know you have a trip coming up this weekend. So I'll probably be doing
Yep.
some solo pods this weekend. But yeah, we have a big 15 game slate tonight. If you guys are watching this, please give us a thumbs up on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. I think the last time I did a video, I asked for 50 likes. We almost got there. So I'm going to set the goal for 50 likes for this video. So if you're watching this, it takes a literal fraction of a second. Just click that little thumbs up. Let's see if we can hit 50 for today's 15 game slate. And be sure to check out all of our free content, core plays, projections at dfskarma.com and then betkarma.com as well. Bales, 15 games, like I said, it's a big slate. What's your thoughts on the slate as a whole?
I like it. I think there's a lot of ways to go. I think specifically the top of pitcher is going to be really interesting because you have a lot of really good options where it's kind of going to be tough to decide where exactly you want to go. We discussed a little before we came on this pod. Neither one of us love the low end pitchers. Like there's a few that you can probably take a shot on specifically in tournaments, but it's more of like a high priced pitcher kind of day. I also am like I'm slightly interested to see where like everyone's minds are at for like stacks and stuff because you have guys like Jay Happ who obviously is a stack that we love to target, except for the problem is tonight he gets a matchup against Pittsburgh, who's been arguably the worst offense in the MLB in recent games. You have similar stuff with like Paolo Espinino. Just like a bad pitcher, and he gets a matchup against the Mets, who also have one of the coldest offenses. So there's a lot of different ways to go, which tends to be the case in a 15 game slate, and it's going to be a fun one to break down for sure.
Yeah, that was one thing that stuck out to me early. Obviously, it's early in the day, Tuesday, so some things can change. It didn't look like there was a whole lot of weather, which was a good thing. But one thing that stuck out to me was so many teams have big team totals on this slate, so there's going to be a lot of ways to go in terms of stacks. But let's go ahead and dive in here. We're going to start out with the pitchers, and you kind of nailed it right there in your opening. I do think it's a double spend up pitcher day on DraftKings, which is kind of the strategy that I've been going with for the majority of the season. I don't like a ton of the mid tier or cheaper guys. So I think starting off at the top, you have Max Scherzer now for the Dodgers. I still think he's probably one of the safest pitchers in terms of DFS. I would be comfortable using him in all formats. And then we have some other high price guys that I really like, mainly Logan Gilbert and Sean Manaea. Manaea, you can make the case, at least over the last month, he's been the best real life pitcher on this slate. 2.38 Sierra over that time with 36% strikeouts. Gets a really good matchup against the Cleveland Indians offense, who it didn't work out targeting them yesterday with Castillo, but this is just not a good offense right now. Their projected lineup has a pretty decent strikeout rate, so I think Manaea, who has had success against the Indians in the past, matches up in a really good spot. Might be low owned due to that 10K price tag. And then Gilbert is another guy that's really turned it on. He kind of struggled in his first few starts for the Mariners this season, but over the last 30 days, over 30% strikeouts. Really good matchup for him as well against Texas. So I think that's probably my favorite two outside of Scherzer at the top end.
Yeah, so Scherzer is one for me too. I have no problems whatsoever with Sean Manaea. I really like him. I don't know. There's other guys that I feel like I like better, and the two main are going to be Logan Gilbert just because of the matchup and how well he has been throwing. I feel like Gilbert is a guy that within the next like 5 years is going to be in the Cy Young running. So I do really like him a lot, and this is just kind of as good of a matchup as it gets. And then I also really like Alex Wood. He's throwing in San Fran, which is obviously a very pitcher-friendly stadium. Arizona really struggles away from home. And when you look at what they've been doing over the last 2 weeks, highest strikeout rate on the entire slate as a team at 27.1%. They have one of the lowest team WOBAs on the slate at .266. I feel like it's just a really good spot for Alex Wood. He is way underpriced at 8,600 on FanDuel. I think he's much more appropriately priced on DraftKings at 9,800, but he's one of the guys that really sticks out to me. And then a guy that I feel like is perfect for tournaments is going to be Eduardo Rodriguez at 9,300. It's kind of like no one really is going to play him just because you can, when you look at his stats, they're bad. 5.33 ERA. It doesn't really matter. He's got a 3.3 xFIP. He's due for massive positive regression. He's been seeing a ton in the second half of the season. The big issue, obviously, is that he gets a matchup against Tampa, who has a high-powered offense. With that being said, I believe they lead the MLB in double-digit strikeout games. Over the last 14, their strikeout rate's over 25%, which is second on the slate behind only Arizona. So at 9,300, assuming relatively no ownership, Eduardo Rodriguez is going to make a really, really good tournament option tonight.
Yeah, I agree pretty much with everything you said there. The one guy that I think is going to be like a big question mark on the slate and kind of what to do with him is Carlos Grasco. He's only 8K on DraftKings. He's looked really good since coming back in his 2 starts for the Mets, but the problem is he's only got up to 62 pitches.
Yes, he threw 62 in his last game.
Yeah, so I don't know how many you can really expect from him on this slate, but I mean the results and the metrics have been good, right? Sub 3% walk rate, so he's not hurting himself by walking guys on base. 26.5% strikeouts. I do like the price tag. If you were telling me you were going to like, but I just know how can you expect him to get more than like 75 pitches here, right? If he only got 62 in his last one.
No, I agree. I can't imagine it bumps up that drastically.
Yeah, so I think he's going to project pretty well, but that's probably going to be a GPP only play for me unless we got some hard news on pitches for him. I do want to mention, I think from what I saw, Freddie Peralta might be throwing the night game. I don't know if that game is on. I have to wait and see for some confirmation for that because I know the Cubs are playing the doubleheader because of their rainout last night, so I think he might be throwing at night, but we'll have to wait and see some actual news on that. That I think we covered the top tier pretty well, and like I said at the beginning, I really don't like any of these, like any of the guys below Carrasco. I don't have a ton of interest in. I know there's one you like, and then there's one we both like, so I'll kind of let you talk about anyone below Carrasco that we like.
So first, I'll quick say, for me personally, if Freddie Peralta's throwing the second game of the doubleheader and he's on the slate, he will be my number one pitcher. I don't even think anyone's going to be close to him. The matchup against the Cubs, it just doesn't get better than that. They strike out at a ridiculous rate since the trade deadline. And Freddie Peralta obviously is outstanding, specifically against right-handed batters, which I believe they're probably just going to throw out like 5 of them. So I will say that Freddie Peralta, assuming he's throwing the second game, will be my number one pitcher. And to be honest, I don't even believe that someone like Max Scherzer is going to be that close to him tonight. Below Carlos Carrasco, the 2 guys that Ben's talking about is one, Jake Odorizzi, 7,700, gets a matchup against the Rockies, who have been on fire in recent games. With that said, obviously they feature one of the worst offenses in the MLB on the road. So anytime they move to a stadium like Houston, which obviously is pretty hitter friendly, you can attack that offense. And Jake Odorizzi, although he's not a good pitcher necessarily, is relatively fine and has flashed upside at times. So I have no problems going there if you need to save a bit of money. The second one is Zach Gallen. He struggled quite a bit throughout the season, but his xFIP still sits at 410, which isn't necessarily good, but it's kind of like, more or less an average pitcher. His strikeout rate is over 27%. So I do believe that Zach Gallen is relatively reasonable on the slate, and obviously playing in a pitcher-friendly stadium against San Francisco, who isn't necessarily an offense that we love to target. But they have been striking out quite a bit in recent weeks. So you kind of have the upside there at only 7,100 on DraftKings. So I do believe that Gallon is at least worth a look, more or less in tournaments. You're not really going to go that route in cash games, though.
Yeah, if you have to pick someone below Grasco in tournaments, it is going to be Gallon for me. Tough matchup against San Fran, but he's just a better pitcher than that price tag indicates. He does have strikeout upside. So if you need a flyer in tournaments, need a little bit cheaper, trying to fit in an expensive stack, I would go with him. Before we get to the positional plays here, we do have breaking news. Bales, you are on the clock in our Dynasty
I'm
League.
on the clock.
In our Dynasty League, Bales is on the clock. What is this? Third round? Fourth round? I don't know what round we're in.
Yeah, I think it's late third round.
Late third round.
For everyone watching that is in a slow draft on in any type of Dynasty League, I went on the clock less than 3 minutes ago. I just found out about it literally right this second, and I just drafted Pat Freiermuth. Done. Moving on.
Easy.
Keep the league spinning.
Yeah.
Just so everyone knows what's going down with my team. I entered this offseason with Mike Gesicki as my only tight end. I think I might have had Dan Arnold too. He's getting cut, getting the boot off of my team. Added Kyle Pitts in the first, basically traded Juju for him. Wide receivers are stacked. I don't need Juju. I don't even care. I have Deontay, the wide receiver one in the entire NFL.
Right.
But I added Kyle Pitts. Then I added Dallas Goedert. Now I just drafted Pat Freiermuth. I'm locked and loaded at tight end for the next 30, 40 years probably.
Yeah. Bales is stacked at tight end now. If you guys are in our Discord, this is a good plug. It's free to get in the Discord. 100% free. It costs you $0. DFSCommer.com. There's a banner on the top screen. Just click it. Get in there for free. We had some of the most entertaining talk in the NFL channel, this Discord yesterday, that you guys need to go read. But you can also ask us about this Dynasty League because there's been some crazy trades that have went down this league in the last 24 hours. But this is a baseball show. We have 15 games to discuss. Let's get back on track.
We're back on it.
We're back on track here. We're going to talk about the catcher position. With it being so many games and there being so many options, I'm going to try not to list like a ton of players at every position. I'm just going to simply highlight the guys that really stuck out to me upon first research. Number one at catcher, he is the most expensive catcher on the slate. Bales and I boy Eric Haas. Massive, over a 400 WOBA against left-handed pitching this season. He's expensive, but really hard not to consider him in all formats. And then a pair of cheap guys. I know we like Wood, but I do like Carson Kelly at his price. And I also like Mike Zunino at his price as well.
Cool with both of them. I will add Mitch Garver. 100% fine with him at 4,300. That actually seems pretty cheap. Yadier Molina at 39. And I feel like I literally butcher his name every time I try to say it. I'm not even close. Kyle Higashioka.
Yeah, that was
Did I get it?
That was actually pretty good, yeah.
There we go. Feel like you can use him at 33. And then, if you want to punt at catcher, you're always going to be able to find someone that you can just kind of plug in, like Chirinos is projected to start. That won't really be as viable if Freddie Peralta is throwing, but you'll always find someone in the low 2K range of this position if you want to punt it.
Yeah, there'll always be value opening up at catcher throughout the day. Once we get lineups, first base, I will let you lead off here. I have a very clear first base pool tonight, so I'm going to see how many of my guys you steal at first base.
Oh, man. All right. Guys that I feel are really good options. One, Pete Alonso at 4,200. The price tag is ridiculous. I'm 100% fine playing him. I think he's a really good play. If you're spending up a little more, I feel like the two that I'm kind of deciding between are Matt Olson against Tristan McKenzie and Paul Goldschmidt against Stephen Brault. I like both of them as spend ups. If you're looking to spend down a bit more, I think that Luke Voigt, Miguel Cabrera, and even though I do like Zach Gallen, Lamont Wade at 3,400 are all just a little too cheap. That's probably where I'm looking at. I do think that there's other viable options, like Jonathan Scope is only 4,700. I think that's reasonable. Someone like DJ LeMahieu, but I would prefer to probably use him at second base because of all of the options that you have here at first. But that's a pretty large pool. I feel like that's a good pool to choose from.
Yeah, I think you did a very good job there. Alonso definitely stuck out to me at that price. Espino giving up over a 260 ISO to right-handed hitters this season. Throws 50% fastballs. Obviously, Alonso very good against fastballs. So I do really like him. Olsen, I think, is the top spin up, and I like Scope as well. I like the Tigers mini stack again tonight. Once again, I feel like I talk about them every slate for some reason, but yeah, top cheap guy Miguel Cabrera once again, baby. We're going back
Miguel
to the well.
Cabrera.
Last 14 days, 48% fly balls, 45% hard hits. Yeah, really like his matchup. Numbers don't look great against lefties this season, but 50% hard contact rate will do for me. So I do like him for cheap as well. And then I'll mention I don't know who's going to pitch for the Cubs in the second game, but if they have a righty, Rowdy Tellez is still really cheap. So
Mhm.
I could see him getting some ownership if they throw out a righty.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. Second base, I didn't love this position when I first looked at it. Our boy Johnny India's up over 5K. I do have some interest in the Reds tonight. He's hit the ball really hard over the last couple weeks, so I'm interested in him. I'm interested in the White Sox tonight, so we can look at Cesar Hernandez at the top of their order for his price tag, not overly expensive. I like that. And then another guy that was too cheap to me was Jorge Polanco. It's tough to pick on Dallas Keuchel because he's so good at getting ground balls, but Polanco has been really good at the plate over the last couple weeks. And if you look at his season-long numbers against lefties, 29% line drives, 43% fly balls. He gets the ball in the air, which is exactly what we need to combat the ground ball ability of Keuchel. So I definitely like Polanco at his price tag tonight.
Yeah, Polanco's price is pretty dumb. I feel like the other guy who's just like grossly mispriced is Whit Merrifield at 3,800. I do like Nestor Cortez. I love watching him pitch, but Whit Merrifield at 3,800 is just a ridiculous price. Feel free to use him in all leagues. Outside of that, I think you outlined it pretty well. Yeah, I don't think there's anyone else that I'm really like dying to get in my lineups or anything tonight.
I think for like a one-off, you could look at Abe Toro. He's been really good recently as well. He's pretty cheap, but um, yeah, that's about it for me at second. Third base, I'll let you lead off here at third.
I continue to hate third base literally every night. It's just a terrible position. But Rafael Devers, I feel like, is the very obvious option. He's almost 6K, but gets a matchup against a less than elite right-handed pitcher. And whenever that happens, feel 100% free to get Devers in your lineup. I have no issues if you're spending up as well, going with a guy like Manny Machado, Nolan Arenado, even like Yohan Moncada. All of them make fine plays. If you want to spend down a bit, Hunter Dozier is only 3,000. Obviously, gets the matchup against Nestor Cortez, but he should be hitting near the top of Kansas City's lineup, roughly fourth, probably maybe fifth. So I don't have any issues with anyone like that. I think that Candelario is relatively fine at 4,100. It's just I don't have overly strong conviction on anyone at this position outside of literally Devers. I think Brian Hayes is also very interesting at only 4,000, and that's probably just where I'm sitting at this position. I feel like it's a nightly thing where I just kind of look at third base and I'm like, this is just gross.
Yeah, I think in terms of spend ups, Devers, Machado, those guys are certainly fine. I like Moncada a lot. Love him against right-handed pitching. Jax is pretty bad, right? Over a 6 xFIP this season. I think the White Sox are in a really good spot tonight. I don't know. I think Hayes is interesting. His numbers just don't look that good for the season, even against lefties. But 42% hard hits. J Hap's going to throw a lot of fastballs, which is good for him. But it's tough to take any of those Pirates guys. I think they're more of like one-offs or like a mini stack rather than the full stack. Eugenio
Mm-hmm.
Suarez stuck out to me. I've been playing him a lot recently just because he's been really underpriced on DraftKings for the last month. And it wouldn't shock me if he ended up in my cash game lineup again at his price tag.
Yeah, I'm 100% fine with literally any of Cincinnati against Drew Smiley.
Yeah, 100%. Shortstop. I actually think shortstop's a little bit tougher than third today. Didn't love anyone off the bat here. I think if you want a mid-tier priced guy, it's probably Kyle Farmer fitting with that Reds theme. This is someone else that you and I have been playing regularly. He's actually been pretty good over the last couple weeks for the Reds. And then if you're spending up, Tim Anderson's been arguably the hottest hitter in baseball over the last couple weeks. Super expensive. So you're probably going to have to take a cheaper pitcher if you want to get in a full White Sox stack. But I do think he is the top projection here. And then Wander Franco started off kind of slow when they first called him up, but he's up to over a 390 WOBA against left-handed pitching, hits the ball really hard. I'm interested in him in tournaments.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. Honestly, that's probably basically about it. I think if you want to do something weird, Andrew Velasquez, assuming he's starting for New York, is only 2,000, so you can go there in a solid matchup against Daniel Lynch. Outside of that, though, I think you pretty much outlined shortstop pretty spot on.
Yeah, we'll finish up at outfield here. We don't have lineups yet. We're doing this earlier in the day, so we don't know all of the super cheap guys that are going to be available. I think there's a ton of good spend ups here, though, obviously, which is usually the case on a 15-game slate. But you have, the Yankees guys in a really, really strong matchup. Judge, Stanton, Nick Castellanos gets a lefty. Really tough not to consider him at his price tag on DraftKings. I think he's probably my top overall play on the entire slate. Nelson Cruz also against a lefty. Have to consider him, I think, in all formats. And then I could even throw Cedric Mullins in against Casey Mize for tournaments at his price tag. He's been the best hitter on the Orioles against righties all season. So I think he's a really good spend up. Mid-tier plays, I like Robbie Grossman has been arguably the best hitter on the Tigers against lefties, and I've kind of went over my Tigers love throughout this video. Luis Robert is still really cheap for the White Sox, and then I circled Dylan Carlson as too cheap in all formats as well.
Yeah, you pretty much nailed it. Just some guys that I would add to the player pool. Tommy Pham at 4,600. I do really like him. I think you can more or less use him in all leagues. If you can spend up at 53, you have Starling Marte, who has been on fire and gets a solid matchup against Tristan McKenzie. Jarren Duran, assuming he continues to hit second in Boston's lineup at 31, is a little too cheap against Patino. The Yankees could do something a little weirder tonight. Jonathan Davis is currently projected to start for them, assuming he's hitting in even a decent position. He's 2,300 and has looked good against left-handed pitching. So I think that he'll be a solid option. You can use a guy like Brandon Nimmo at 3,500. He's leading off the Mets, obviously gets a good matchup. Mark Canha's down to 3,900, which I don't really care how he's been playing. 3,900 for him is just way too cheap. And then obviously, the White Sox guys. I know you said Luis Robert, but you also have like Eloy Jimenez, who is 100% viable on this slate as well.
Yep, I pretty much agree. That about does it for the positional plays. Let's talk about some stacks and some home run calls. Before we get out of here, I think for me, big three in terms of stacks: White Sox, Reds, Yankees. And then my lower owned one, once again, going to stick with my Detroit Tigers theme. I've kind of been riding them for the last 2 weeks, and I'm going to do so once again tonight against Keegan Aiken.
Yeah, no, I pretty much agree with you. I think if you want to, I guess my favorite stack is probably going to be the White Sox. It's just such a good matchup against a guy like Griffin Jax, who gives up a lot of home runs. I think it's tough to think of someone like Pittsburgh, perhaps so bad that you can at least consider them specifically in tournaments. I do really like the Reds. I think that's a really good call. And then I guess like my lower owned one would probably be Oakland, just because it doesn't feel like a lot of people are going that way. And McKenzie does. So he hasn't been a good pitcher, and he does have electric stuff, which means he can get a lot of swinging strikes and strikeouts, which kind of, somewhat limits pure upside in an offense. But he also gives up a ton of home runs. So I do feel like Oakland's in a really good spot tonight.
I agree. Give me your home run call for Tuesday night.
Home run call. I mean, who do we go with here? I think who are you going with here? How out
Um,
there are you going?
I'm gonna go with Johnny India for mine. So
Okay, so pretty out there. I thought you were gonna go with something much easier for me to make a call. I'm gonna go with Harrison Bader.
okay, I do have some interest in the Cardinals outfielders, so I don't mind that. Thank you guys very much for watching. As always, we appreciate it. Quick reminder, please like the video. We're going for 50. Our goal is 50 on this slate. Click the little thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and good luck tonight, guys. We'll be back with another video for the Wednesday slate. We'll see you guys then.